welcome back to Asher Books. So today I'm going to be doing a recommendation video for books that have a small town feeling to them. Now I'm saying small town feel to them, not like actual small town, because when I was making this list and I was trying to think of, okay, what are my favorite small town romances? And this was kind of inspired because of my current read, which is taking place in a small town. But a couple of the books that first came to mind, I realized are not actually set in a small town. They're set in a big city, but you'll see what I mean when I get to those and we'll talk about it. But basically, most of them are in a small town with a couple of caveats. So first one I'm going to recommend, which I feel like I always recommend whenever I talk about small town romances, and that's Rustic Hearts by Amber Kelly. I read this one a couple of years ago when it first came out. It might have been last year. I can't remember now, but it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I thought this had a great small town atmosphere. The romance was really sweet. It definitely had the like big city girl coming to the small town that she was originally from and like born in and things like that. And I just really enjoyed it. I know that there's like at least 2, if not 3 other books in the series, and a lot of people have been loving them. I just need to continue. So it sounds like the whole series is great, and I know it all takes place in this town. So it's definitely one that I would recommend if you want kind of that small town feel. So now we get to the one that is the reason for me calling it small town feeling. And that is, if you like a small town atmosphere, I would really recommend Cara Bastone's books. I read her first 2 in her, I don't remember what the series is called, and I know she's got a couple others in that series. I just haven't quite got to them yet, but the first 2 were awesome. Now, these take place in New York, but both of the couples live in, I believe it was Brooklyn. I am not a New York specialist, so please don't quote me on that. But I think the reason they may feel like a small town though is because obviously most people don't live like smack dab in the middle of like touristy New York. They live in like one of the boroughs. So like in this case, they live in Brooklyn, and it has that small town feeling where you know people you pass by, and you know they're walking everywhere, and they can walk to the park, and like the kids, like it's just, they have little markets and little stores. And I just think that's part of what makes a really good small town for me, is kind of the setting and the people. So to me, this really does have a small town feel, and I always recommend her books. I think they're fabulous contemporary romances, so definitely check those out if you're able to. So kind of with this one, and the reason that made me originally think about this was I also would recommend the From Manhattan with Love series by Sarah Morgan. I've read the first 3 or 4 of those and love them. Again, it takes place in New York, but it's in like a small area of New York, and these are people who've lived there for a long time. They know everyone around them. They're really familiar kind of with the area, and it really does have that small town feeling. So kind of along with Cara Bastone, if you haven't read Sarah Morgan's I think it's Manhattan with Love series, I highly recommend. They're so good. They're such funny, sweet romances, and to me definitely give off that kind of small town feeling. Okay, so for the rest of these, I think they actually do take place in a small town. So the next one I'm going to recommend is The Fox and the Hound by R.S. Gray. So a lot of R.S. Gray's books do take place in a small town from what I remember, and I've read like a lot of them, but this is the one that stuck out to me. I actually own it. It's up there. I just forgot to grab it down, but I really like this one. For some reason, when I read it, this is my favorite. Now, I've read a few since then that may have surpassed it in my favorite R.S. Gray, but this takes place in a small town. What I like too is that like our hero is like the local veterinarian, and like the girl is like, it just seems like everyone has a job where like they know each other. Like, you know who's the vet, you know who's the like florist, you know who's the, you know, XYZ. And I feel like that again is what makes it feel like a small town, because if you're in a not small town or like a big city, you're not gonna know who those people are. You're just gonna call or Google it. So in that way, I think this book really does feel like that. This book's also hilarious because the escapades that our heroine goes through, because I believe, if I'm remembering right, she adopts a dog that's really big, or she gets somehow she gets a dog that's really big, and so she has to like go to the local vet and ask him to like please help her. And it's really funny. So if you haven't read that, I would definitely recommend. Another whole series that definitely takes place in a small town is the Until series by Aurora Rose Reynolds. Now, I loved the first one when I read it, Until November, years ago, and it's been a long time since I read that, and I've obviously read a lot of other contemporary romances since then. But I will say the whole series kind of has a special place in my heart. I don't think Until November is my favorite. I really liked, I think it was Until, now I can't remember. It's the one where she's like the librarian. I can't remember. Nico, maybe? Until Nico. I'll put the cover up. But these are all really small town romances. This group of brothers lives in this small town. I think it's in Tennessee, if I'm remembering right. And these like all these brothers are like tatted and like tough guys, and they instantly fall in love, and they have this like boom and they fall in love. Just a warning, these definitely are like insta-lovey, kind of predictable romances, but they're just so fluffy and fun. And I don't know, I always have a special place in my heart for these because I read them so kind of early on in my romance reading. And I just think they do have that small town feeling, and it's just like a kind of a feel-good book if you want something that is a little predictable. Sometimes I want to read that where I kind of know where this is going. And I would recommend that if you are kind of in that mood. Another series that definitely takes place in Tennessee is The Winston Brothers by Penny Reed. Again, I own these, and I did not prepare for this video, and I did not pull them down, but I own at least 3 of them, I think, and I love The Winston Brothers. I do have to read the last 2 still, but I've read the first, I think, 5, and they're great. So again, it's about a group of, well, a family really, but they're mostly brothers with one sister who live in this small town, and I'm like 99% sure it's Tennessee. And they're amazing. Each brother has a book, and they're all more crazy than the last, and they're just such unique characters. They have a really interesting backstory with their family. They're hilarious. Cletus and Jen are my personal favorites, but they're all great. And this one definitely has that, like, you know, all the funny characters, like there's the shops, like, you know, like the donut shop, and like, you know, where the guys work on the cars at the auto mechanic shop, and you definitely have that feeling like Stars Hollow where you can just like walk around and see everything. And I love the Winstons. If you want a small town romance, I think this is like the ticket. I think they're so good. Another one that's not like a traditional small town, but I figured if you have not read this, I would include it, and that's The Simple Wilds by K.A. Tucker. So if you didn't know, this is about a city girl moving to a small town in Alaska. Now, when I say small town, I'm talking small town. This is not even like a normal small town. It's like very, very tiny and very in the middle of nowhere. So if you want that with a really interesting Alaskan setting and just beautiful love story, such a heart-wrenching but also really beautiful love story, as well as, you know, the family dynamic. I mean, if you haven't read this, I recommend this book to everybody. I think it's such a great book, and then the romance is great as well. But obviously it does take place in a tiny town in Alaska, which is a big part of the story, so I think, you know, it deserved a spot on this list. And then the last one I'm going to recommend is Gypsy King by Daphne Perry. This is a series as well. I know there's, I think, 4 books in this series, but each one is about a different couple. I've read the first 2, and I still need to read the last 2, but I really enjoyed the first 2. This one kind of was different for me, and I really liked the kind of dichotomy of it, where it's a small town, and I can't remember where. I want to say somewhere out west maybe, but it's a small town. And then our main character, though, or has something to do with like a motorcycle club, but not a traditional motorcycle club romance, because I'm not always the biggest MC fan, but this one really worked for me because I'm not going to give it away, but the main characters are involved in some way in the motorcycle club, but it's not like the main thing. There's also like a mystery going on. Our main character is like a reporter, I think it was. Yeah, she works for a newspaper. So she's trying to figure out this murder and basically meddling where she probably shouldn't be meddling. And I really enjoyed Gypsy King, and I read the second one and really enjoyed that as well. So I think if you want something kind of different and with a lot of kind of mystery involved, this is a really good one to check out. All right, guys, so those are some of my favorite kind of small town feeling romances. I know there are so many others, and some people like have lists and lists of these. So please let me know what your favorites are. If there's something you think that I would enjoy, definitely let me know down below, and I'd love to check it out. I love reading small town romances in the spring and summer. Don't know why. It always just is what I tend to do more of. So definitely let me know so I can check some of those out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.